And so we were just reflecting on how things have changed, and both in the city, in the district, some of the things that together we've accomplished. And I can tell you there is no greater honor as an elected official than representing the people of District 5, because you've all been so supportive over the years. You've all contributed to whatever positive changes and accomplishments we've been able to achieve together. And I have to say that getting around the city, I found that there are more District 5 residents with the District 5 spirit than people understand. And what I mean by that is, people in West Pasadena, in Southwest Pasadena, in East Pasadena, in Central Pasadena, all share one thing in common, and we all want a better city, a safer neighborhood to live. We all want to work together to address issues of, sorry, my dog Rose is, hey guys, sorry. So we all want to work together to achieve that. And I was on an earlier call, neighborhood leaders throughout the city, where we talked about that, the common thread that I suspected was there. And I've now, having campaigned citywide, confirmed is there. People really want to work together in our city. People, I'm looking at Perry Helm here to talk to us about mapping our neighborhood. And Perry, lives in East Pasadena and volunteers his time all throughout the city. And it's that spirit of working together that I think is going to be the focus of the next 4 years, at least from my perspective, helping Pasadenans connect with other Pasadenans to make a difference and get back to what I consider to be a resident-driven, coordinated effort to work together. And so I look forward to doing that. Somebody said, well, you're no longer going to be our council member, but I'll tell you, I'm still going to live in District 5. I'm still going to be a resident of District 5, and the incoming council member of District 5 will be hearing from me as a resident and as mayor of the city about the importance of keeping the momentum that we've built in District 5 moving forward, and then helping to create that same momentum in other parts of the city. So with that, let me just thank all of you for your continued support, and I look forward to representing not only residents of District 5, but residents of every part of the city, and hoping we can create a better city together. How does a District 5 council member get selected, and when, is Carl Selkin's question. So it will have to be an appointment of the full city council. I don't appoint as the outgoing council member. I don't appoint a successor. The city council will appoint a successor that will finish my city council term. And my city council term will have 2 years remaining, and before the next election. And so the council has, I believe mine is it 75 or 90 days to
75.
To make up.
75. So February 24th is the date.
Is the deadline.
Yes.
And so the process as it's currently contemplated, and what I mean by that is the city clerk is making a recommendation that we accept applications, that we being the city council, that those applications be made public and available, and then that there be an interview process before that deadline, and that the council then select a successor. So we're going to take that matter up on December 14th. So that staff report will be made public probably next week. Well, actually, it has to be made public next week, but I'm going to ask that it be made public sooner rather than later once it's finalized, so that everybody understands the process. And anyone going to be talking to people who and have had people reach out to me who are interested, and we'll be talking to people regarding their interest. So that's the process, and December 14th, the council will consider that process and either approve or amend it. Did I freeze up or?
No, you're there, Victor.
Sorry, I'm having
I think
problems
everyone's
with
just listening.
Any other questions or comments?
Victor, could you, I know you've already done this twice today, but could you just very briefly go over what happened in the park, in Villa Park, for people that are not aware or didn't get to attend the meeting?
So we did host a meeting this evening, a live Zoom meeting from the park. I hosted it together and invited the police chief and the city manager to come talk to us about the uptick in violence that we've seen in Pasadena, and specifically in some of the parks in and around Northwest Pasadena, Robinson Park, La Pinte, and Villa Park. I'm, particularly around Villa Park. We had a shooting this week that involved 3 victims. 2 of them are now deceased, and 1, as of today, was in critical condition. We're concerned because those 3 victims are not believed to be known gang members or affiliated with gang members. And so that's a concern because on November 13th, I believe, close to Villa Park on the same street within a block, there was another individual who was murdered, young man who was murdered, and he too was not gang affiliated that we're aware of. And so you can see how that sort of those sort of facts concern the police department, concern me, and others, because it's you typically see gun violence where people know of each other, have an axe to grind because of their gang affiliation or drug deals. So when you begin to see violence involving people who are not gang affiliated and there is no evidence of a drug deal or a robbery, it becomes a tremendous concern. And so the police department is working very hard. You can all expect to see more police presence. The chief has said today that he's concerned that we're not that we've stepped away from pulling people over who police officers believe may have violated the law or are gang affiliated, and so he's going to brief his department and make sure that we're paying special attention to people who maybe are gang affiliated and or on probation or parole, and so you'll begin to see more police presence and activity in that regard, because there is a very serious concern.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions. I don't see any questions in the chat, so I'm just going to ask you, when the, when the new council person is appointed, will there be an opportunity for us to meet the new council person? Like in a meeting such as this, do you think?
Yeah, so once the candidates are, you know, once the candidates formally step forward and provide an application, I do plan to host a live Zoom event and give them each an opportunity to make their case, to tell us why they want to be a member of city council, and specifically why they are the most qualified to represent neighborhoods in District 5 and contribute to the betterment of the city in general. And so I do think we'll have maybe a few opportunities to talk with all of the candidates. I think it's good for the candidates to have an opportunity to make their case directly to residents of the district. And so I will be sure to provide that opportunity and let everybody know. But importantly, I think it's a good idea to do that once the application phase has closed, so that everyone has a fair opportunity.
Also, when you're inaugurated on the 7th, will that be something where people are invited to watch or via Zoom, or how will that?
Yes, and so we've been waiting for the governor's order, and so it will be Zoomed. It's at 2 p.m. Unfortunately, we can't have the type of celebration that I'd like us to have in person and, you know, all present. But we are, hopefully the governor's new order doesn't prohibit this. We don't believe that it does, but all of you will receive an invitation via email either this evening or tomorrow to attend a drive-in swearing in front of City Hall. So the Centennial Square is going to be closed. Cars will be able to pull up. People can sit in their car. Actually, they have to sit in their car to be consistent with the law, and be able to listen in and be present, honk your horn, and we will require reservations because it can't be open to on that. And so
you froze up. It can't be open to what?
oh, it can't be open to the public. So people will need to make a reservation to attend. And Felicia Williams will be sworn in. I will be sworn in at 2 o'clock on Monday in front of City Hall. And so look for your invitation. It should be on your email this evening or early tomorrow morning.
For those who
and you can also link in. Yeah, it'll have a link address for
like a live stream.
for Zoom.
Okay,
A live stream. Yeah.
great.
We have Tim Wendler has a question. Tim?
Thanks, Josh, and thanks, Victor,
Jim.
for being here. And that sounds like a great event. I wondered a few weeks ago at a council meeting when the council was looking at housing issues, you proposed that we have a housing commission, which I think is a great idea. And I was wondering what you saw as the timeline for more formal consideration of that concept.
I think at the beginning of the year at the beginning of the year, I'll ask the staff to provide a report. And I think we should be open to a committee or a commission to advise the city council on what other cities are doing, recommendations related to publicly owned property, to leveraging dollars from the state, to working with our neighboring cities. I've had a meeting with the leadership of the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments, and as I said during the campaign, they've created a trust fund. They've confirmed that they're very, very interested in leveraging local dollars to attract federal and state dollars to construct more affordable housing throughout the city. So those are all issues that a committee of residents or a commission could look at carefully and then come back to the council and make recommendations. And so probably in late January, early February, we'll come back with that proposal.
That sounds great. Thank you.
Let me
And then
give
we
you,
have, oh, sorry.
well, I see Betty's question in the chat here. Were you going to go there, Josh? Is that where?
So I have a couple people in line. So
Okay.
we've got, before Betty, sorry, Betty, we've got Jose Correa,
Oh, Jose Luis.
who has a question.
Hey, Jose Luis.
You can unmute Jose.
Okay, can you hear me?
I
Yes,
can hear you
sir.
now.
There you go. Hey, congratulations, Victor, on winning mayor. It must have been all those ads you did with me. I have a couple questions in a sense where for the new council, what are the qualifications? You have to live in the area? Because I just moved back into the area, into District 5. I just wanted to know what the qualifications are for the application. That's my first question. The second question is historically, there've always been violence in Northwest Pasadena. What concentrated effort could be done to quell that problem? Because the rest of Pasadena, there's not much violence. It's always the Northwest, and we're on the borderline of it, so we get some of that violence. So what could be done to really, what's the main problem that happens? The violence always in Northwest. There has to be a reason.
I think we've learned over the years, and particularly this last year, that there are long-term goals that the city has to undertake, and that means opportunity for young people. I'm very focused on working with some of the trades, with PCC, to give young people opportunity for job training. Even before the election, I went over to PCC to find out about some of the vocational programs and how we make better use of them. And it's interesting, this is what I discovered. The weld program has a 3-year wait. When I talked to the iron workers union, I said, how can we bring some of the young people who maybe, aren't interested in, and don't get me wrong, everyone should have the opportunity to go to college and graduate school and do all those things. But there's some young people who, don't have that interest and would prefer to, work with their hands or have a career path as in one of the vocations, plumbing, construction, iron workers. And so I tested the theory. I brought some kids from La Pinte to PCC. And I said, okay, well, here's a group of young people who are interested in becoming iron workers. And I brought the iron worker representative, and he met us there. And what he said is, if you give these young people the opportunity to enroll in the welding program, we'll put them to work. And this is the answer that we received. There's a 2-year wait at the weld program. There are 32 positions in the weld program. That's not nearly enough opportunity for Pasadena residents, let alone for the entire catchment area of PCC. Yeah. And so I'm going to ask the city council and all of you and the school board and the board of the trustees to change that. We then walked over to the automotive shop, and the automotive shop, which by the way is run by a District 5 resident, it has even fewer opportunities. And the person who runs the automotive shop is a young man who lives in District 5, and said to me, we get calls every day from dealerships, from people looking for for trained mechanics, and they make a very good living. But guess how many bays they have? 18 bays. That means 18 opportunities at PCC for young people who are interested in becoming a professional auto mechanic. So again, I consider that to be very insufficient. So one thing we have to do is look at issues like that for the long term. But in the short term, immediately, I think it's going to be a combination of policing and reaching out to, as we did tonight, to residents in the affected areas to ensure that we're all pulling together to bring a stop to it. But it is going to require more police presence. There's no question about that. And so, I know that, some people will respond to that and say, we're the police department is overreaching, and we have to be conscious of that issue as well. And so it's going to be a balance, changing the dynamic for better and more opportunities for young people in our city, and policing is going to be the approach, and working together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. I've got a question from Betty in the chat that says, what is Pasadena's status as far as preparedness to handle the uptick in COVID cases being predicted? And do we have enough hospital beds?
We do at the moment. Actually, interestingly enough, as of yesterday, I've not seen the numbers for today. They weren't available yet, but as of yesterday, our numbers in Pasadena actually started to stabilize and go down. But that's, in comparison to other parts of the county. And we're hoping that maintains. The hospital is reporting to us that there are ICU beds available. And we've not seen the tremendous increase related to COVID in the ICU at Huntington Hospital that other parts of the region have seen. But it's at Huntington Hospital and throughout the county, actually, it's not the availability of ICU beds that's causing the problem, it's staffing. It's the Dr. Morgan at Huntington Hospital, whom I've been in touch with, says it's the challenge for hospitals is staffing. This morning I was on a call with Mayor Eric Garcetti, with Robert Garcia from Long Beach, and Catherine Barger, president of the Board of Supervisors, where we were briefed by Dr. Ferrer. And by the way, that group of four makes up the team that is responsible for the county's response to COVID. And this is what I learned. There's some good news, because there is a vaccine that people are very confident about, and we're going to receive the county's going to receive its first shipment of 80,000 in the next few weeks. And initially the county was promised 1.7 million doses, and that somehow got whittled down to 80,000. And so there's a commitment on the part of the county, Mayor Garcetti, and certainly me, and as your representative, and Mayor Garcia from Long Beach, to work together to ensure that we get more than 80,000 for a county of more than 10 million. I think there's also an argument to be made that Pasadena should receive its fair share, because we're a separate health jurisdiction. And so I'm going to ask the city council to direct the staff to pursue Pasadena's own effort because we are unique. We have our own health jurisdiction, to receive more of the COVID vaccine. It's going to be probably a few months. There's the county and this group that I described is going to be working on a distribution plan. I'm going to ask the city staff to focus on a distribution plan for Pasadena. I can tell you they're already working on that together with the hospital. And so that's the good news. Mayor Garcetti made clear to the group that he's prepared to dedicate what he described as an army of LA City employees to help with the distribution. And, you know, as the mayor of a city who has over 45,000 employees, he can say that with confidence because he's both the executive as well who has a lot of employees that he can direct. So we'll be working with Mayor Garcetti, the county, and our own staff to ensure that we receive our share of the vaccine and that we have a distribution plan that's in place.
Great, thank you, Victor. Next up, I've got Jess and Alex Rivas who have a question for you.
Hey, Victor and Vanya, thanks for joining us tonight. I have another COVID related.
Natalia.
She's right here on the floor. There she is.
She's almost a year old, everyone.
Yeah, she's 11 months today, actually. Yeah, say hi. I was just wondering how the public health department recently decided to keep our restaurants open, which makes us a small island of restaurants in a county with 10 million people who want to go to restaurants. I was wondering how big a factor, or if it was a factor in the public health department's decision and the council's, I guess, contemplation to keep the restaurants open, that now we're going to be a magnet for people all over the county to come here and potentially bring COVID and expose our workers and servers and cooks.
You know, the decision was a decision of the health director and health officer, was not a decision of the city council. It's, you know, where our health officer, Dr. Go, made the determination that as long as people followed the protocols and we had sufficient enforcement, that it was safe to continue our restaurants. And this is that delicate balance between, you know, the health crisis that COVID presents, a very real health crisis, and mitigating against the economic impacts and the economic crisis. And so our health officer, based on her reading of and her staff's, including Dr. Feaster, who's the epidemiologist in our health department, made a determination that based on contact tracing, we weren't seeing infections related to outdoor dining. And so we've mentioned earlier, we actually saw our numbers begin to flatten. The governor's new order today may change that. Well, actually not may, is going to change that. And not based on our numbers, but based on our region's numbers, our restaurants are likely to close in the next few days. Again, not the result of our numbers, but the result of the region's numbers. So yeah, absolutely, Jess, there was a concern. We discussed it. I supported our health officer's determination based on her review of the data. But I also insisted that we increase the number of enforcement officers. And so you saw some of the restaurants shut down by the city who weren't following the protocols that Dr. Go recommended. And so we have more enforcement going on today as a result of that.
Thanks.
And I had a question going back to the murders that have been happening in our district. You had mentioned that there was no evidence so far that they were gang related, which is scary because then you think that they're random. But is there any evidence or anything from the police that these murders were not random? And then also, is there a plan to tell the community whether or not they were random? And also, I'm concerned. I imagine that all of the victims were Latino. I'm guessing based on the makeup of our community, and given the election and given everything that's going on, if they're random, my mind goes to bad things. So I'm just curious, how sure can we be that these are isolated incidents and not something that is part of a, either random in a bad way, or random or rather targeted in a way that is something that is worst case scenario.
Yeah. The police department is, I can say, concerned that, as I stated earlier, the individuals, and you're correct, the victims are Latino, and that's a concern because, and they're not gang related or affiliated, I should say. And so that's a concern, and they're looking at all of those possibilities, Alex, and it's a concern. The chief doesn't want to make any predetermine anything at the moment, but they are going to take all of those issues into consideration, and are actively investigating all of those cases.
So at this point, we don't know whether it was, say, like, it could be not random, it could be personal, like people were targeted for reasons other than gang. We don't know anything at this point, is what you're saying, yet.
We don't have enough facts to conclude one way or the other.
Okay.
What we do know is that people, the victims are Latino. We do know that there's no evidence that the victims were affiliated with gangs. And we see no evidence of a robbery or, a drug deal gone bad. The typical thing that you would find in a situation like this. And that's what causes the great concern, because there doesn't seem, typically when you have this type of violence, you can trace it back to one or a few of those things. Either the perpetrators and the victims knew one another somehow. We don't know that. It doesn't appear that there was some sort, or they have some sort of dispute. There's no evidence of that at the moment, or that they have some sort of affiliation involving gangs. There's not that, and no evidence of a robbery, no evidence of a drug deal gone bad at the moment. Those facts could change, but you can see, you're highlighting why it's a concern.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Victor. We have time for just a couple more questions. I've got one from Carl Selkin. Carl, did you want to ask your question?
Yeah, first an observation, congratulations, Victor.
Thank you, Carl.
Victory. The observation I make is that the current Dean of Engineering at Cal State LA, Emily Allen, started off as a welder and got her PhD in materials science at Stanford. So you may have a welding ally there. But it's also interesting that, there's great career paths and further academic paths through all of the trades. And it's really important to keep in mind. But the other thing I was wondering is, from the way you were talking, it sounded like you're getting a lot of inputs on where needs are. But is there any systemic kind of investigation in where current and future manufacturing needs are, so we could maybe develop programs, intersectional programs with academia, high schools? I don't know where vocational ed is in high schools, but a lot of that got a bad name in the 60s. And I think it's really important to bring that back and kind of reconceptualize it, because welding ain't what it used to be, for example. A lot of it's computer-based. So that's just...
Yeah, no, absolutely. And they're different type of welders, and there's the guys who put up the beams, and then they're welders. Yeah, they're just within the welding profession. There are different expertise.
I know
And
SpaceX has particular need for certain kinds of welders that are not the I-beam welders.
yeah, and I remember, and as I thought the issue through, I remember when I was in high school and we had the auto shop, the metal shop, the wood shop. And I've said to people, some of my friends who I went to high school with would spend, hours before school, during lunch, and after school. And I realize now that they were developing their interests and their skills. And some of those friends are now, some of the most successful people that I know. They own roofing companies, they're electricians. And I remember shortly after I left high school when we gutted the public schools of those opportunities. And if you look back, I mean, it was the decision that everyone should, and I remember the term, every young person should go to college. And it's never been the case that everyone should have the opportunity to go to college, and if that's their interest. But it's never been the case that it's been a pre-qualifier for success anywhere in this country. In fact, I think the numbers hovers around 40% for people who actually go to college in the greater population. And so we cut out a lot of avenues for success when we made that determination and gutted the schools of those vocational programs.
And if you treat workers with dignity, there's dignity in work. So that's an important thing to keep.
Absolutely, and so I intend to work, and I've already contacted many of the trades and asked that they make an effort to recruit from Pasadena, and so I intend to bring that initiative forward to ensure that more young people have access to apprenticeship programs. But I think we've really got to make an effort with PCC to dedicate more resources at the community college level and PUA.
Great, thank you, Carl. Thank you, Victor. We know you've had a busy night tonight, so we have time for one last question from Pepe and Joe.
Hey, Pepe and Joe.
Hopefully there's actually two, and hopefully they're both quick. One of them is what happens with Vanya, what's she doing next? The other one is, are you guys aware of the Shield of Faith admin building? It's being gutted, up on 1100 block here on Lake.
Oh.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah.
The windows are gone, and it looks like the inside is being gutted.
I'll take a look at that, Pepe. Thank you for that.
Gonna move in, maybe, I mean, some bums might move in and cause a fire or whatever.
Yeah. So what happens with Vanya? What's happening with Vanya?
Yeah.
Vanya is going to be right here in the city of Pasadena, working in the mayor's office as the field representative to the mayor. And will continue to live right where she lives and do her work, great work for all of us. And so she's not going anywhere. Over a few doors, and that's about it.
We wish you were going to be our councilwoman, but I know you're not.
No, but I will always be here for you guys, for wherever I'm at. So.
That's a lead into what I wanted to say. First, I was going to thank you both so much for coming. And second, I hope that I can invite you as mayor and assistant to the mayor to come to some of our meetings in the future, because we're going to miss you both.
You're not gonna miss us. You're not gonna miss us at all because I live about 3 blocks from you.
I know, and I'm gonna come bug you a whole lot.
Yeah. And I will attend every meeting that I'm invited to attend.
Hey, everybody
maybe
heard
s-
that.
I was going to
And
say,
maybe
yes.
some,
You need to
maybe
note
some
that
that-
down, Mindy.
yeah, no, and I'll be, and I look forward to the next block party.
Yes, may we
You know,
all meet in person.
and I know that there are people on this call who are not uh, residents of District 5, but I don't mind saying this. You know, I believe that Pasadena is the center of the universe. And you know how you have that an address, at least on MapQuest, you have the little pin that drops, the little pin that, you know, drops to where your location is on the bigger map. So if you imagine Pasadena as the center of the universe, if you were to Google center of the universe, the little pin would drop right in the heart of the center of the universe, District 5. And I really believe that that Pasadena is the center of the universe and District 5 is the heart of the center of the universe. You know, not to take anything away from any other part of our city, but you know, it's a great place to live. I love it, and you know, all of you are friends and family to me, and that's not going to change one bit.
So much. If everybody would like to unmute for a second, just to say thank you, Victor, you're welcome to do so, and then we'll move on to our next part. So, thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Victor.
you, Victor.
Thank you, Victor.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Victor.
you.
Good luck. Got a
And
lot of challenges to look forward to.
Yeah, well, Carl, I'm not letting any of us off the hook. We've got a lot of challenges to look forward to, and we're going to do it together. I'm confident that we'll soon be at another block party in Washington Square. The vaccine will be in place, and our city will be working together with every part of the city to make this a better place. And so, again, I can't thank you enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor.
Okay, well, now we're going to move on to Perry Helm, who's going to explain to us about Map Your Neighborhood. I know some of you already know about it. I guess it was attempted a number of years ago, but we probably could all use a refresher. And some of us never did it, myself included. So take it away, Perry, and thank you.
Thank you, Mindy. So, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Map Your Neighborhood. If you can see this, this is the Map Your Neighborhood shingle. This was developed probably 25 years ago, so it's been around for a while. What I'm going to talk to you about now is sort of an updated version of this. Okay, and what we've been doing, I call it Map Your Community, and I'm going to switch over to my PowerPoint if you don't mind, and show you that. Hang on a second. Okay. All right, so I want to talk just as briefly about what I call Map Your Community, which is, it's different than Map Your Neighborhood. Map Your Neighborhood is a block. If you notice your block 8 here, which is Palm Terrace, and this would be a block. This would be a Map Your Neighborhood block. This is a group of people to get to know one another, and they learn how to help each other in a disaster, and try to get around and see each other within 1 hour after a major earthquake hits, so you can make sure that everybody's okay, that they don't die, they don't go into shock from loss of blood from cutting their feet on broken glass, for example. Anyway, so I went online trying to learn a little bit more about Washington Square, and this map on the left here is what I understand is the parameters of your neighborhood or your community. And I originally looked and it said there was 250 homes, but Mindy corrected me, said there's 400, apparently 400 homes when you include the I believe that's the apartments and the senior living apartments that are also part of your neighborhood. Currently, there are 8 blocks, if I understand it correctly. Your neighborhood's been divided up into 8 different blocks. Those may or may not work with the Map Your Neighborhood program based on the way it's set up. If you look at the Palm Terrace block here, this is pretty much the way a Map Your Neighborhood block should be set up. 25 homes, 25, 30 homes, line of sight. And this is perfect the way block 8 is set up. But there's another one like El Molino. You have an El Molino block that goes around the corner, and that's not necessarily, and we can work more on this if you guys really want to get involved with this on how to lay these out. You have organization, you have block captains, my understanding, for on each block. I'm not sure, but I think that's your situation. You collect dues, so you actually have some money. You have a board with officers in place, and you communicate with your neighborhood via different things. Nextdoor apparently seems to be pretty important to you guys. Twitter, Facebook, email. I'm not sure about emails. You have email accounts for all your neighbors. I'm not sure.
We use email, Nextdoor, and flyers.
Okay, got it. All right, you don't do snail mail at all, I take it. You have a great website, and I think Josh is in charge of that. You have a diverse community. You've got some non-English speaking people in your community. And I don't know if that's Spanish or if that's Mandarin or whatever it happens to be. This Map Your Neighborhood program is also written in Spanish and in Mandarin and various other languages as well, if that needs to happen for those particular blocks or those particular people. You also have a senior living apartment, and that is a totally different issue. That should be its own entity all by itself, and that's a different way of doing the Map Your Neighborhood program. We can deal with that as well. And you also have an apartment complex. That's really challenging because you have the turnover of people so often that no one stays there for any length of time. So it's really hard to have some continuity with an apartment complex. And you also have Washington Park as part of your neighborhood, which that could be very helpful in a disaster for, if nothing else, if you had to have some place to put the dead bodies. Isn't that a horrible thing to think about? But that may have to happen. Okay. So anyway, mapping your community, just so you know why I have some experience with this. I live in Upper Hastings Ranch. This lady on the left-hand side here her name is Kathy Gregg, and she's the board president of Upper Hastings Ranch. This is our neighborhood. We have 1,100 plus homes in Upper Hastings Ranch. And these blocks, like this green block right here, that's 34 homes, and that's my block. That was the very first one we put on Map Your Neighborhood. And the next one right next to it, this orange block, they have 33 homes. And this lady down below here is the block captain, Jennifer Chow. She's the block captain for that block. This is her daughter, Isabel, who's working on her Gold Award project for the Girl Scouts. And I'm going to show you in a minute how she's worked with Orange Heights with Cindy Schnelly. This is Cindy and her husband, Dave. We actually have spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time working in that area. And that's also Victor Gordo's neighborhood, by the way. And I'm going to share some information about how all these neighborhoods tie together here in just a minute. So I've worked a lot with Margaret. Margaret Vinci here is at Caltech. And what she's showing you on this big screen at Caltech's Media Center is an earthquake happening. And this one is an example of the 1875 Fort Tejon earthquake that happened on the San Andreas Fault. And the only reason I want to show you this is that these guys spend a lot of money doing this research on this, because if you see this line right here, this blue line, that's what's called a P wave when an earthquake happens. Those are the preliminary waves that go out, first of all, followed by these red waves. These are the ones that beat you up. These blue ones move faster and they get to us quicker. And that's how our early warning system works. We have sensors all over the place here that are going to sense this movement. When we have an earthquake, it's going to send a signal to our phones if we have the app set up on our phone. so that we know that an earthquake's coming. If it's as far away as where she's pointing right here, which is the Salton Sea, where this earthquake happened in 1875, this takes a while for us to get to us up here in Pasadena. And so you have approximately 70 seconds before that actually the big waves get to us. This crack here, this red line here, that represented the rupture when this earthquake happened. It was 225 miles long. Ended in Wrightwood, went right through Palm Springs. Anyway, when this earthquake happened, there was very few people living here, so there was very little damage. There was only 2 people killed apparently as a result of it. Now they've done a study that's it's going to be way different. We have a 100-year-old system of water pipes, for example, that are going to get broken to pieces. Anyway, these are apps. Before I get into the Map Your Neighborhood thing, I just want to provide some information that hopefully you guys will take advantage of this. We have apps now. The Shake Alert LA has been out for a few years. That was the original early warning system in LA. The latest is called My Shake. So please add these to your phone. This might give us just the time needed to be able to get into a safe location after an earthquake hits. Okay. We have, I just want to show you a quick little video, if you don't mind here, that shows when an earthquake hits, once you get the signal on your phone, what do? Right? So let me just show you this. This is a snippet of a video that was taken from a 10-minute video we recorded here at Pasadena Media and right here in town. And so let me quickly show you this.
Disasters will strike at any time of the day or night. It is not a matter of if, but when. During an earthquake, emergency management professionals all agree that drop, cover, and hold on is the appropriate action to reduce injury and death. Immediately protect yourself as best you can where you are. Earthquakes occur with little or no warning. They may be so violent that you cannot run or crawl.
This is just a short snippet, a 30-second snippet that was taken from a bigger film. And these snippets are available to you guys. Josh, if you want to put these on your website, whatever, I'm going to show you a couple more here in a minute. But if you want to put them on your website, why not? I mean, why not if this will help people, right?
Okay, great. Thanks, Barry.
Another thing I wanted to show you is that in the Map Your Neighborhood program, it's a 9-step program. And that program is on page 3 in that little booklet I showed you a second ago. There's a page 3 in here and the writing is real small. So what we did is we practiced a drill in my neighborhood and pretended like that this was under my bed and that I pulled this up in the middle of the night, okay? And I'm trying to read this writing and I couldn't read it because it was too small. So what we decided to do in my neighborhood in Upper Hastings Ranch is we took those 9 steps and we abbreviated them so they weren't so many words that were so hard to read, and we put them on the outside of a bag. And you don't necessarily need to do this, but if you have any kind of a laundry bag or a grocery bag, this is just a grocery bag, a backpack, an old backpack, to put some items in under your bed. And the immediate reason for that is that if we have an earthquake in the middle of the night, we want to be able to reach down and be able to grab stuff and be able to know what to do. And these are the steps. When we're all shook up, what do we do first? Well, we dress ourselves for safety. We protect ourselves. Then we go help our kids or our mothers or our dogs or cats. Whatever whoever our loved ones are, we go help them next. We take care of ourselves first. And the reason for that is because the biggest injury after the Northridge earthquake was people jumping out of bed. It happened at 4:30 in the morning, and people jumping out of bed and cutting their feet on broken glass. So you can imagine if you cut your feet on broken glass, you're going to be kind of worthless. You're going to be a victim. You're not going to be a helper. And the whole idea behind this program is to be a helper for your neighbors. Okay. So these are the steps. This is some stuff that you should have in your bag, under your bed. And this is, before you even think about doing Map Your Neighborhood, you should do this. You should have your bag under your bed and be prepared. Have some shoes, have some socks, protect your feet, have a flashlight, for sure, be able to see so that if it's pitch black, you can see in the middle of the night. Have extra batteries. We try to do a drill every year. And the reason for that is that this year when I was getting ready for the Great California Shakeout, which was, you know, that's an annual drill that's done every year for earthquake preparedness. Anyway, I pulled my flashlight out of my bag and the batteries had corroded in there and it didn't work. So what good is my flashlight going to do at night when it's, you know, I'm already shook up enough and I can't make my flashlight work because the batteries have corroded. So you want extra batteries in there just in case, and we need to run a drill just to make sure that our equipment's working properly. Okay, I have a headlamp on my helmet, again, to protect my head, but also to give me the ability to have both hands free. I have a big dog and I want to be able to carry her to safety. So I want to have both hands to be able to do that. Gloves, pair of pants, shirt, underwear, eyeglasses. I put my eyeglasses on my nightstand next to my bed, and big earthquake happens in the middle of the night, they're not going to be there. Or if you think, okay, I'm going to use my iPhone for my flashlight. Well, that's all well and good, but if you set it on your dresser, it may not be there when you wake up in the morning. It's going to be someplace across the room. You're not going to be able to find it. In fact, it might be in pieces. So these are just some of the stuff that we want to have in there. This help or okay sign, that's the last page of this document. I don't know if you can see if I'm holding it up here. That's the last page of the document that you can put either a help or okay sign in the window. And that's to let people know that you're all right. So anyway, let me just show you real quickly why I suggest the bag.
From an earthquake is stopped. First, take care of yourself, your family, and pets. Look around for visible hazards, such as broken glass. Go to your emergency supply kit under your bed and get essential items like a flashlight, shoes, and a checklist. Remember, this will be a stressful and confusing time. Your checklist will remind you of the critical steps learned in Map Your Neighborhood. Protect your feet by putting on socks and sturdy shoes. Use a helmet to protect your head from falling objects. Put on heavy gloves to protect your hands.
Okay. Again, you can see that the reason why we want to have a bag under the bed. And again, if it's the middle of the night, what do you do? You know, if you're in bed, what you're supposed to do is cover your head with your pillow, roll up in a ball, and just ride it out. Hold the covers over you and ride it out. Don't try to jump out of bed. Don't try to get in a doorway. Don't try to get next to the bed. Just stay in bed. All right. Let me show you one other little quick video. And again, Josh, if you want to put any of these videos on your website or make them available to anybody, I mean, why not? I mean, this is certainly information that should be helpful to everybody. Okay, here's another one. These are steps number 3, 2, 3, and 4 on our Map Your Neighborhood program.
Once you prepared yourself and family members
It's my dog.
secured the inside of your home, you check for natural gas leaks. You may smell it, hear a loud hissing sound, or see dials on the meter erratically moving around. If you believe the gas is leaking, immediately shut off the valve with a quarter turn in either direction. Remember, once the gas is shut off, you will not be able to safely turn it back on without the assistance of the gas utility. Next, shut off the water to your home in case there are broken pipes and to protect the existing water in the pipes from contamination.
All right. So I'm not going to continue going through the whole program because this is something that we should do individually with each block as we go forward. But just a quick example here, this putting the OK sign in the window, that just speeds up the whole process. So if you're checking on your neighbors and you want to get around your block within 1 hour, it's called the golden hour. You want to get around and make sure everybody's okay. If someone has this in their window, then you can skip over that house and move on to the next one. Again, we're trying to speed up the process as much as possible. Okay. Another thing with the Map Your Neighborhood program, they talk about fire extinguishers. You should each have at least 2 fire extinguishers in your home. And this is in my home. I have mine in the closet, which is fairly close to the kitchen, which I'm pretty sure if there's going to be a fire in my house, that's more than likely where it would be in my kitchen. But I don't want to have my fire extinguisher underneath the sink, like my neighbor did. She had it in her sink, underneath the sink in the box still. And I asked her why she had it in the box, and she said, well, that's so I can read the directions. I said, well, that's swell, but what happens when this fire happens in the middle of the night? You lost your glasses, you have arthritic knees, and you're trying to get under the sink. And oh, by the way, this box is behind all the other cleansers and everything else you got under your sink. You're struggling to get that thing out. And if you look at on the front of this, there's a dial on the front of a fire extinguisher. If the line right here is in the green, that means that it's still good. It means that the propellant's still going to work. But if it's in the box under the sink, you're never going to look at that. You're never going to know whether your fire extinguisher is any good anymore. So when you might need it, might be just like those batteries that are corroded. Your fire extinguisher may not work. And so you pull it out and you finally read the directions and figure out how to use it. And oh well, it's too late. It's not going to work. So this is where I have mine. I have it at eye level in my closet where I can see the dial and know that whether it's still good or not. Now, I'm just going to show you one other video real quickly, and this is on how to use this rather than having to look on the box and read the directions which are on the very front of the fire extinguisher itself. Why not just follow the program called PASS? And this is what I try to teach people.
Be sure to use the PASS or PASS approach to extinguish a fire. P, hold the pin. This will also break the tamper seal. A, aim low, pointing the extinguisher nozzle at the base of the fire. S, squeeze the handle to release the extinguishing agent. S, sweep from side to side at the base of the fire until it appears to be out.
All right, pass. You can remember that, right? Like pass the football. Okay. So again, this is the Map Your Neighborhood Reader's Digest version. After you do all these things, you go to a meeting area, you meet with your neighbors, and if you notice, they all have sheets here. Well, these are all your blocks. So what you do is you take your blocks, your sheets, and you go around your neighbors and you go check on everybody to see how they're doing. Well, what I've tried to do is create a program called Map Your Community, and it's to help you guys organize yourselves. This is block number 1, and we try to follow your blocks as best we can, the way they're set up. So block number 1 would work fine for a Map Your Neighborhood block. You identify the house numbers for each home, okay, crossed here. If you notice, these ones are upside down, these numbers. That's because when you're looking at the house, when you're walking the neighborhood at night and it's pitch black, you don't know north, south, east, west. And again, this all came from practice in my own neighborhood from doing this ourselves. So what we did is we said, okay, whatever it says on the curb, you have a number on the curb or the house, you're looking directly at the house. We want to know that this is 677 and that we're going to identify when you do the Map Your Neighborhood program where the gas and the water shutoffs are, because those are the first couple critical things you want to do is make sure you can turn the gas off. The Northridge earthquake, majority of the fires after the Northridge earthquake were caused by broken gas lines and down power lines. So you had the sparks from transformers blowing up and you had gas leaking and you had explosions, you had fires all over the place. So you need to be able to shut off your gas, know how to do it, where it's located, but also if your neighbors aren't home, you want to be able to shut theirs off if theirs is leaking. Okay, it's all about taking care of yourselves and your neighbors. So if you notice these numbers go this way, left to right across here, 677. Okay, this is a spreadsheet that we developed that goes above and beyond. This is all part of Map Your Neighborhood, but we put it on a spreadsheet rather than just handwriting it into a book. So here's house number 677, 687, 685, 695. It's basically going down the thing, which is the same as going from left to right on the map. And then we fill in information about all your neighbors. So in other words, who has first aid training? Who can deal with elder care? Who can deal with child care and crisis counseling? You know, anybody who's a ham radio operator, who can communicate via ham radio? Who has a generator? Who's a handyman? You know, that sort of thing. Plus, who speaks different languages? You can handwrite that in this column right here. You know, who speaks Spanish? You know, who doesn't speak English? And any of that kind of information. Where is your gas located? You know, what side of the house is it on? The right side, the left side, so we can speed up this whole process. So this is the kind of information you can gather from your neighbors that I've been able to gather. And we did this for Orange Heights. We gathered all this information. We've done it for approximately 750 homes in Upper Hastings Ranch. So we have this data. It's all very confidential. We don't share it with anybody. It's only for that block. It's only for their purposes to know how many adults, how many kids, how many teens, how many elderly people live in a home, how many dogs and cats do they have, you know? So, and then what we do with that, this is that girl that I was talking about. That's the golden girl that's working on her gold award. This is her project that she developed. And this is part of Victor Gordo's neighborhood. This is North Oakland Avenue, where she identified on her document, she took a Google map and identified where the gas shutoff is and where the water shutoff is. So you can see that's all the way across. This is part of a block. The whole idea is we want to be able to cover this whole block within an hour. So we broke it up into segments to make it to move faster. And this is a checkoff sheet that she developed. Look, again, 919. 919 is the first house here. 963 is a far house on the right. We also notice this looks like a little bit of a bigger house. It probably is, because there's 3 adults that live there. There's 1 teen and there's 1 disabled person, okay, or elderly or disabled person. We want to make sure we take care of these people. And they have 2 dogs, if you notice on there too. You have 2 dogs. So this form we use to actually, when we run a drill, and we're going to do next year when we can actually go, we did this virtually this year, but next year when we can go to Victor Gordo's neighborhood, we're actually going to run a drill, and we're going to have these printouts ready. We're going to actually have people walk around and check whether they could shut off the gas or not, whether they could shut off the water, if they know where the water location is, how to shut off the water. If there's any locked gates, in my neighborhood, we have a lot of locked gates, so you can't get at the gas. So we want to note that as well. So we might skip that house originally and come back to it later on. How many people have help or okay signs in the windows? My block had 9 signs in the window when we did our last drill. That meant there was 9 out of 34 homes that we did not have to check on the first go around. That saved me, if you figured 3 minutes per home, that saved us approximately 27 minutes, or almost a half an hour of the golden hour we saved by not having to check on those homes, right? And then we can see how many people are actually at home. In this case, there should be 5 people here, or there could be 5 people here. So we want to make sure we're looking for 5 people and 2 dogs. And we make any notes out here on this document, and that's what that's used for. Is so when we gather back up again, we know what's going on, but we also can share this information when the first responders or the last responders, I call them in this situation, because the fire department is going to be overwhelmed. They're not going to be able to get to you. So we want to have good notes, so when they do arrive, we can tell them specifically what's going on. Okay. All right. And this is the way a Map Your Neighborhood program normally works. This is my neighborhood when we did ours. And we had, there's a program called Map Your Neighborhood Video for Facilitators. You can do a Google search on, and there's a series of videos that you go through that can be done at these kinds of meetings, which is great, but we can't do them right now, right? And so that's why these virtual meetings, I think, are so good and so available, is we can do meetings like this and actually probably draw more people into those meetings than we could when we actually go to somebody's house. In my case, probably 50% of my block came to our original meeting. Since then, some of these people have moved away. This year I have 3 new neighbors in my neighborhood. So we have to update information. We have to retrain people. So how do we do that? How do we do that on an ongoing basis? Okay. So that's basically, I sort of flew through this, but I didn't want to drag it out too long. I know you guys have been here for quite a while. So I'd like to open it up for questions.
I just wanted to say, I do like how you have that form where it breaks down all the houses and the pets and everything, because on the Map Your Neighborhood booklet they give you with the blocks that we did it gets kind of messy. Like, you've got it, but it's being all written out. It's nice because then you can just update it really quickly if you have it like on the computer on the form, and it's a nice way of doing that. So I think that's a good solution.
Good. Well, yeah, I agree. To me, it was like I tried to do it the Map Your Neighborhood program way, which is using the form, this form, and trying to. And what they say in here is to draw your neighborhood on this little graph paper. It's like, well, this was developed. This program came about before there was Google Maps and the ability to actually, create a map of your neighborhood. So I think there's ways to speed up the whole process and make it work better. And that's my whole idea is I don't really care how this was originally designed. I just want it to work. And we've tried to modify it in my neighborhood, in Orange Heights. And hopefully in your neighborhood, we'd be like to do the same thing here and try to see if we can't roll this out for everybody, not just a specific block, but your whole community, your whole neighborhood.
I was wondering, I think you touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but I was wondering if you explain a little bit more to people, or is why they should do this. Because we've got police, we've got fire department, like, why do we have to do this?
And the reason for that is because they're going to be overwhelmed. If we have the big one or a big earthquake, our first responders are, like I call them, the last responders, because they're not going to be able to get to you. They seriously are not going to be able to get to you. They have limited resources, and we need to be able to take care of ourselves. In other disasters, they say that like 75% of people are saved by neighbors that are not saved by paramedics or the fire department, but are neighbors helping neighbors. So the realization is we're going to have to help each other. You may not like your neighbor because their dog barks too much, or because their leaves from their tree fell in your yard or whatever, but they may be the people that save you, or you may be the people that save them. And so we need to figure out how to work together in this situation, regardless about the fire department's not going to be able to get to you. I'm sorry, it's going to be overwhelming.
Do you have any statistics on how long it would take for them to get? Like, if this were to happen, like, is it a day or is it a week?
Yeah, it really, who knows? I mean, it depends on how serious it is. How serious is a disaster? But the thing about it is we have to take care of ourselves best we can. The thing about it is if we can turn off our neighbor's gas, if they're at work, when people go back to work, okay, and our neighbors off at work. I have my neighbors behind me, both teach school. So if they're off at work teaching school and they can't get home and their gas line is broken, I need to be able to turn their gas off for them so that their house doesn't catch on fire. Because if their house catches on fire, then my house catches on fire, the whole neighborhood catches on fire. And, we just have to take care of ourselves. We have to do everything we can to do whatever we can before the paramedics and the fire department can get to us. I mean, it may not happen for a day, or it may not happen for a couple of days. Yeah, it could be a while.
One last question, and then I'll open up to everyone else. So the information when everyone puts down on their block, like who has what for tools and this and that, or does everyone have that copy of it in that block, or is
everybody on that block? Everybody on that block should have a copy of that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody should. Now, see, here's the problem when you do the regular Map Your Neighborhood meeting and you fill out the form, is that number one, you're not going to have all your neighbors show up to the meeting. I mean, it ain't going to happen. I'm sorry. And so you may get 50% of the information about your neighbors, but the other 50% is still missing. You don't know. So, yeah, I think I think a better way to do it is to actually go communicate with your neighbors. What I've done, what we did in Orange Heights, and what we've done in my blocks up here in Upper Hastings Ranch, is when we could go door to door, we go door to door and gather the information before we had the meeting. So if the people don't show up at the meeting, at least we take them out and show them where the gas shut off is, so they know how to shut it off and what it looks like. We find their water shut off. We mark it on a map. We talk to them. We talk about the importance of it. And then if they don't show up to the meeting, well, at least we tried. And what you need is a core of people on each block to be able to take care of the rest of the block. You're never going to get 100% of the people to be knowledgeable and 100% of the people to want to take part. But if you have, on my block, I have 34 homes. If I get 8 people to help, or 8 people total out of 34 homes, that means I can have 4 groups of 2, and I break my block up into 4 quadrants, and I go to those 4 quadrants and try to get around my block as quickly as possible. And that's how I would try to break out your blocks as well. But that's the kind of number that you want to be looking for, maybe 8 people on each block to help each other out.
Great, thank you.
I'm sorry. Can I ask the question, Josh?
Sure.
Yeah, go for it. I'll just say thank you.
Just for clarification on what you just said,
Mhm.
you mean like 8 people to help in the case of the earthquake, or 8 people to help gather all this information?
I'm talking about when you actually have an earthquake, or if you want to run a drill, for example, you need probably, that's what I see as if you have a block that's maybe 30 houses, that you need approximately that many people to really cover it quickly and be able to get around and check on everybody within an hour.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And as far as gathering information, it just varies. You know, it depends on what, you know, I've done this a lot of different places, going door to door, just knocking on doors and talking to people. We can't do that right now, unfortunately. So there has to be a certain amount of trust and a certain amount of knowledge about your neighbors, you know, people that'll you know that you're not going to steal their information and put it out there on the internet. I mean, this is strictly for helping one another. And there's going to be a certain amount of people that don't want you to know how many people are in their house, how many children they have, or that sort of thing. I understand. I mean, and that's okay. The only reason we gather that kind of data is to make sure that if that house has 5 people in it and the roof collapsed, we want to be looking for 5 people, right? If we find 1 person, that's not enough. We need to keep looking. Okay.
So how do you, when you say you need approximately 8 people, because you're not going to get 100%, which was my question, how many people did you need?
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about finding the people that are willing to help? Is it when you go, I mean, because 1 person wouldn't be going door to door collecting all that information. So is it just, do you just put out an email or a flyer to your block and say, hey, if you want to help?
I think there's a lot of ways that you find that out. I think you just, once you start getting involved with this, you know, on a block by block basis, you're going to find people that really are concerned, that really know that we're going to have a big earthquake, and they know that they need to do something, and they're all a little bit afraid because they don't know what to do, and they have never taken the time to figure it out. So there's going to be those people that say, yeah, I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I really care about this, and I'm going to be here. My husband or my wife goes off to work, or you know, whatever. There's going to be people that really care, and those are the people that you want to connect with. And there's other people that say, oh, I don't want to be bothered. I'm going to stick my head in the sand and pretend like it's never going to happen. So you know, there's going to be people that don't want to do this, and you can't get discouraged by that. I found that, you know. On my block, again, 34 homes, I still probably have 50% of the people that actually take part, you know, and there's other people that don't. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to want to save them just as much as that I want them to help save me. You know, I feel responsible for my block. I really do. And I'm concerned. I'm a block captain on my block. So you know, and you guys have block captains, I believe. And I just feel a certain responsibility for my block that I want to make sure everybody's safe. You'll find them. You'll find people out there just by talking to them that want to get involved. You know, other people are a little afraid of it, but don't be afraid of it. I mean, the best thing about this is Map Your Neighborhood is a process. It's a program. It's been set up. It works. We know it works. But I'm telling you right now, I believe what we've done in this Map Your Community thing that we were doing is even better, because just because you do your block doesn't mean that the houses behind you or on either side of you aren't going to catch on fire, because they're not doing it. I mean, you want everybody in your whole community to do it, to take care of each other, right? Each individual block has to take care of themselves.
How do we access the Map Your Community materials?
I give it to you.
Oh,
All the stuff that I've just shown you. Well, you saw I already put a spreadsheet together for you.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it took me like no time at all. I went online and did that, right? So, you know, I can help you do that, and I'd be more than happy to help you do that. You have a question?
Is it okay if I speak? Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for your information and how much work you've done. We did try doing that, mapping your neighborhood, and my blog fortunately had a very successful rate. The only problem was the follow through and then having to map out the houses and numbers. But what you've shown me is so much more efficient. And because of your experience, you're giving us a head start in how to get into this program. Yeah. And your willingness to share and do some of the spreadsheets already is just fantastic. The one thing I'm kind of concerned about is that with our program, we found people were petering out. We couldn't keep the interest up in other parts of our neighborhood. Is there something that you can advise us to that we could do to keep the momentum going?
Yes, absolutely. I think the Great California Shakeout is the best reason in the world to keep everything going, because what that does is if you do a practice drill every year and you do it at the time of the Great California Shakeout, which is in October, it's on October 15th, it was this year, at 10:15 in the morning. That doesn't mean you have to do it at that exact time. We have in the past in my neighborhood, we've done drills on the exact time as a shakeout, because they do it every October. And they do it in the morning because back in the good old days when kids got to go to school and people got to go to work, they would do drills at school and also at their office buildings and that sort of thing. But nobody ever practiced in their neighborhoods, right? But we did. We practiced in our neighborhood. And so that is a good incentive to do that every year, because that sort of, it reinforces the program. It reminds everybody what the steps are in your Map Your Neighborhood program. Everybody should check their equipment to make sure, like I said, that the batteries haven't corroded in their flashlights, that they still work, or you swap out new batteries. So all your equipment's still working, and you update your database as far as anybody that moved into the neighborhood or moved out of the neighborhood. You know, you're going to change the scenarios on your database. The map itself should not change at all. Like I was showing you there, the map that has the gas and the water shutoffs, that's not going to change, but the neighbors are going to change as they move in and out of your neighborhood. And so you just have to update that every year. And I think the Great California Shakeout is a perfect time to do that. It's a great incentive to do that. To me, that's the only way you're going to ever make this system work, is if you practice a drill every year. And we've done it several years in my block, and it works. I can tell you it works. It really does work.
I have a question. I mean, you're talking about earthquakes,
yes.
But we recently had fire emergencies right near us, and maybe in your neighborhood, I'm not sure, where there was evacuations or evacuation notices. Did you participate in that as part of your group?
Well, yes, we do. As a matter of fact, we've tried to get more involved in wildfires, because we're right where I live. We live right next to the mountains here, and so yeah, we were in the alert. If you do the red, do you get red flag warnings? Do you know how to do that? How those announcements come out, the red flag warnings and all that. I mean, it's.
Well, we started following things, but we're not close enough to where we were immediately.
Yeah, so you guys weren't as concerned about it as we were. Yeah, we were very concerned, and so what we're trying to do is teach. There's a program about wildfires that we try to. It's a Cal Fire has an app on the phone. It's called. Hang on, I'll tell you right now because I have it on my phone. But Cal Fire actually. They have a whole program that talks about what you do during a wildfire, how you leave your house. If you have to leave your house, they talk about the fact that you're supposed to leave all the lights on inside the house, and you're supposed to leave your door unlocked, and you're supposed to turn off your gas. And these are all things that if you have to evacuate from your home, that who would have thunk of that? I didn't know that, but it's all part of the program. So hang on a second, I'll tell you what if I can find it here. Yeah, it's called Cal Fire. It's called Are You Ready? I don't know if you can see that. It's called Are You Ready? Okay, and that's a wildfire preparation. And yes, we have been doing that in my neighborhood because that is a real concern up here in Upper Hastings Ranch for sure.
If you have a question, since it's a small group, I think you can just raise your hand and then ask your question, as opposed to putting it in the chat. My question is, what would you suggest would be the best way to get started? Do you do like something to kind of kickoff type of
Well,
thing?
you guys you communicate through Nextdoor is one of your big communication methods, correct?
And email and flyers, we do all three.
Emails, I mean, you do have email addresses for everybody or?
Quite a few, not everybody that is signed up. That's why we also do the flyers. That's how we knew there were 400 residences.
Well, yeah, I would kind of do I call it a blitz where you kind of like, get a lot of information going to your neighborhood. And then if you want to do another one of these kind of Zoom calls now, based on the fact that we can't get together do another Zoom call and schedule a time and place where, whatever to do that. I'd be glad to do this again. We can talk about it with more people and try to stir the interest up. It really depends. You have to have a certain number of people that are really a little bit nervous about an earthquake and really, really care about wanting to do something to be prepared. If you just want to pretend like it's not going to happen, then, that's okay. But
well, until it happens.
Surprised when it happens. Right? Don't be surprised.
Well, so really each block is its own separate entity. It's
Yes.
not like each block of Washington Square has to do it simultaneously.
Exactly. So you sort of build them one block at a time, but you want to, in your case, on your block, I would try to, after you do your block, then try to get the ones on either side of you, because that helps protect you.
Josh, am I correct? You said that Heather Square and Palm Terrace already did it?
Yeah, Heather Square did it, Upper Palm Terrace and Southern Palm Terrace did it.
Okay.
And it's still intact, or?
Yeah, it's still intact. I mean, I still have my bag and everything under my bed and the map your neighborhood thing in the bag. But it is time, I think, to do an update. I think Betty's got something to say too.
Yeah, well, I'm on Heather Square too. We had 50% participation in the really good meeting that we had at Aaron's house, but we didn't do any real follow-up after that. I have my stuff by the bed, but I don't think we didn't really follow up. So we don't know who's got if everybody got fire extinguishers. I doubt they did, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely time to do an update.
Well, there's a few people at this meeting that are on the part of Hudson that's from Belvedere North to Claremont. Are you guys also? Did you, Arlene? Did your block has already done it too?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I know that Jess and Alex are on the part of Hudson that are below Belvedere to Mountain, but I don't know if that.
No, when I started our block, but we just, we worked a couple days at it. We didn't get a whole lot of people. And now some of the people we got are already moved away.
And you only did your block. You didn't go south to
No.
No, this was almost 2 years ago that we started it.
And
I don't think Belvedere's ever done anything.
They applied on Belvedere and they only got 2 people or something to sign up, so Kim didn't follow through. All the rest.
I don't remember ever hearing anything about it.
Me either.
Yeah, Kim.
Someone else was. Yeah. I forget who was trying to do it on Belvedere, but
well, they're not here, whoever they were.
Yeah.
or they're
But
being
that's-
very quiet.
Yeah.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me either.
I'd be interested though.
Kim and Teresa went door to door. They had flyers they put out, I think.
was
It's
very
Well,
great.
Laurel, if you're
No
interested, that's you,
response.
me, and Jordan.
Yeah,
That's
I'm
free.
interested because I do have an electric on the gas thing that shuts off during an earthquake,
We do too.
but the water, I'd have to look.
Yeah. So we need
And
like
I
5
have
more people on our block.
Yeah.
And Josh had a very good idea to have like a yearly shakeout in our whole neighborhood, the way we do a block party. I thought, Josh, that was a really good idea.
Yeah.
To
Well, thanks.
practice
Yeah, I
that.
mean, it wouldn't have to be as big as like the regular block party, but we could do something like that, and people get supplies and sign up and things like that, and do the not the rundown. I can't think of it right now, but the rehearsal, not even the rehearsal, the practice. You know, but yeah, it's a thought. You know.
And maybe we could even make it fun, like prizes for the most bodies that you rescue or something. Well, you know, at school, there are people, as a teacher, I did the Great Shakeout year after year. And the way they did it were some teachers were assigned to watch the kids. Some teachers were assigned to search classroom to classroom. And then there were some people that volunteered to be stuck in the classrooms, or, you know, to have a broken leg, or, you know, various things like that. So it was sort of like the kind of thing where, like a reenactment, so that you could practice what to do. So I mean, we could do something similar to that.
Yeah, and I do like, Perry, what you were saying, where as long as you get a certain number of people per block, because that was one of the things that we were having some issues with, is that there were some people interested, but not enough, and we we're trying to get a lot of people on the block to do it. But like you said, if you're able to get a couple people in an emergency who know, okay, if there's 8, like, okay, you go here, check this, then that's definitely helpful, and I think that is more doable. And then maybe over time doing this, then other people will get more involved.
Yeah.
But I think it's a little more manageable to do.
Well, the thing is, you can't get discouraged if you don't have everybody involved, because it's, you know, you think, God, why wouldn't somebody want to get involved with this? I mean, are you crazy? But and the reality is that not everybody's going to get involved, you know, for whatever reason, you know. But the reality is that you can still take care of your neighbors and take care of yourself with a small group of people that are knowledgeable and know and have a plan. If you have a plan, you can do it.
Yeah.
I really like the idea of going door to door, because when we did it, we had these little potlucks in the block captain or somebody's house. And yeah, that was fun. And that's when we discussed things and handed out the material, but then we didn't follow through on anything after that. And I really think we didn't have FaceTime with all the neighbors who didn't show up at that and really explain the program to them. It was just like, we just kind of dropped it after an email about it. And I think it's a bad way to communicate. We really have to, you know, do that door to door thing.
Along the way, the Zoom meeting makes it easier, because people can't use the excuse that they don't want to go out to.
Well, yeah, that's the problem right now. Well,
I like the idea that you know who's in the house of each house, so you know who to look for, or pets, because you know a cat or something is going to hide.
Right.
And even a dog might. And if you know that they're in there, you might look under a bed or somewhere. Because I would definitely want my Toby saved.
When you, I mean, you know, the dog's like the most important thing as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I'm
losing battery here, so I may fade out before long.
Wait, I have an important question though. How do you get into somebody's house without a key? Let's say there's an earthquake and you know that Laurel is concerned about her pet and she's not home, but how would you get inside to rescue?
I'm telling you guys can break a window and get in if you need to.
I think there needs to be some trust again amongst neighbors as far as sharing keys and stuff too. You know, you know, that we have a certain number of locked gates too, that you can't get into the backyard to shut off the gas. So, I mean, there's got to be a certain number of people that share keys with each other on to be able to get into their homes or their backyards, you know, either one.
But also, Perry, isn't it also when when earthquake happens, one of the first things you do is you put in that OK sign up on the window. So when you go through, and first you see the OKs, and you're like, okay, these houses are all right. And then you may see some that say help, you know, and then you see those, and then you're like, oh, there's nothing on that window. And then, you know, focus on that, you know, and then by then maybe you have a better idea of like what's going on in there.
Yeah, well, the deal is if there's nothing in the window, you go check on that house. You know, you just assume that maybe they couldn't, you know, reach up and put the help sign up because they were injured. So you're definitely going to go check on that house, and you're definitely going to check on the house that needs help. The ones that say okay, you can skip over those on the first go around, and then I would go back to those after the first hour after you've checked everybody else out. You go back around to those, make sure they're really okay.
Well, so if there's a house and there's not okay or help, and you go and you can't tell,
they may not be home. They may not be home. Maybe, you know, in the future when the people go back to work, they may be at work.
so
right?
what would you do?
Well, first, you want to check the gas, make sure the gas isn't leaking. If it's leaking, shut it off. You check their water, make sure the water's not leaking it, you know, because it'd be flooding their house. And if they come back to their house that's flooded or the house burned down because nobody shut off their gas, then they're not going to be happy campers.
Well, but
This is where
like somebody could be in their house and maybe they got knocked out and they're lying on the floor, so they didn't put up a sign.
It could be.
And it looks like no one's home, but somebody's in there. But how would you know?
One thing we should, you know, having everybody's phone number on your block, so you can, first thing you can do is call their cell, or, you know, maybe they have their work number, at least eliminate that possibility. Because one of our neighbors down at the end of the block, they had a gas link when they were out of town. And I don't know if you remember this, Josh, but Kim called me and asked me, did I have John's cell phone? And I just happened to have it for some reason. I had his number. He's at the other end of the block from me, but I write all these things down. I keep a list, you know. And so they had to get the gas company out and shut his gas off. But I think it's really important to have that kind of personal information and keys also. A number of us around my end of the block have keys to each other's houses. But it does take a level of trust, but it's also, it comforts me to know that my neighbor next door can get in if she has to.
Well, there's also the issue that some people have alarms on their houses too.
Well,
yeah, well.
As far as having phone numbers, cell phone numbers, and email addresses and all that, yeah, in Upper Hastings Ranch, we do have that for our block. Each block has that information. We don't share that with anybody. It's very confidential, but we do, in fact, have that information amongst our block. And the thing about it is, if we have a major earthquake, the texting is a better way to communicate rather than trying to talk to people. A text may go through where a phone call may not. You know, there's going to be a lot of cell towers that are going to be flattened and they're not going to be working. So you may be able to text but not talk to somebody.
Excuse me. I was wondering, how do you practice? Do you have people putting signs up saying, okay, help, or run out into the street and pretend to turn off water, gas, or whatever, check on your neighbors?
Yes, we actually we've run a few drills. We actually filmed one, Pasadena Media, that some of those short snippets I was showing you there, that was actually part of a 10-minute video that shows how we did a drill in my neighborhood. We actually went around, told everybody we were going to run a drill, and this is the time we were going to do it. And my neighbor said, well, I don't remember what I'm supposed to do. And I said, okay, take out your red bag under your bed and you just do step 1, then you do step 2, and then you do step 3. And, you know, you come down to the meeting place, and then we all dispatch people out to go check on all the other neighbors that didn't show up. And so we actually run a drill. We actually do it and go around, and people do put the I'm okay signs in their windows if they don't want to be bothered, or if they in fact have already checked the other things before they put the okay sign up which are take care of yourself, take care of your family, turn off the gas if it's leaking, turn off the water if it's leaking, and then put the help or okay sign up in your window. So that's the process basically you go through. Okay, and we actually did that. We've done it a few times in my neighborhood, and it works really well. And we try to then we try to keep track of how many people actually put the okay signs up in the windows. That's why I know that out of my 34 homes, 9 people put up the okay signs in their windows. That saved us quite a bit of time by having to not check on them.
Yeah. Okay,
Right?
thank you.
Hey, you know what? It's a good thing to do.
Well, I was going to say that by practicing, it'll become a habit that you won't panic and you'll know exactly what to
Right
do.
on.
And then you'll be set up. Yeah. Okay.
You got it. You got it. I totally believe that. You know, and if we could save one life by doing this stuff that we're doing right here, then hallelujah, we did something right. Any other questions?
Well, I guess we just have to make a commitment to start. And I suppose the way to do that is to get a commitment from someone on each block that they're willing to do that. Our block captains, I'm not sure that our block captains are still our block captains. You're muted, Laurel. Laurel, we can't hear you.
I was going to say that rather than use block captains, because getting them committed to do the flyers is one thing. It's another to get them committed to be, you know, in charge of their block for this.
The block captains are not the people passing out the flyers, because I couldn't get them to pass out flyers. So I just drafted people and gave them flyers, and they have been good enough to do it every time.
Well, actually,
Laurel being one of them, and John Pepe being another one.
I'm supposed to be the block captain for Belvedere, but it's got all messed up.
Yeah, I mean, I just redesignated it because it's like
desperate.
And I stole Belvedere from you.
That's okay. Listen, but I would like to participate, and I would like to help. Good. I'm not sure how much I can actually do because I'm older and I'm not as flexible as I used to be, but I most certainly can contact people and try and get information and stuff like that.
Maybe we can have a little Belvedere meeting. I don't know who Milo is, and now Milo is gone, but Milo posted that I'll reach out to people around Belvedere and check in via email with Josh by Sunday. But do you know who Milo is?
I'm not sure, to tell you the truth.
My cat's name is Milo, but I don't think it was him. So I'm not sure who Milo is, or if Milo lives on Belvedere. Does anybody know Milo? No? Okay. Well, Milo is going to collect information and give it to you, Josh.
Okay.
But Laurel, we can.
Yeah, we can do it. And I know the next door to me is Lisa, and she's not participated in anything, but I think if I explained to her, I think she would be willing to give us information. And next to her is Jeff and Annie, who've only been here for a little over a year. They're younger, and I bet you they would participate. And there's Storm, that's on the house on the other side of them, or Stone rather. He's pretty friendly. I can talk to him too.
Okay.
So we can keep going.
Can ask the ones right around me.
Yeah, so we can keep going and see, at least get a general idea if they are interested at all.
Okay.
But I would think that they would, we're in California, for God's sake.
Well, people
The earthquakes are getting
procrastinate.
worse every year. As a child, I don't remember earthquakes, but I'm 73 now, so we certainly have had a lot in my adult years.
Yeah.
So
Perry, what would you do about those apartments? You said that would be a whole separate matter.
Well, the elderly home, I think that's one that needs to be addressed separately. I mean, that's where you get together with the folks in the place, because it's a whole bunch of different issues. You have escape routes that they need to figure out. People that are in wheelchairs, they need to have different equipment, and where do you put it? Do you attach it to your wheelchair, or do you attach it to, under your bed or whatever? There's a lot of different issues. We've done some of those before, and that's a separate thing all by itself. The apartment complex, I think that's a real difficult issue because people coming and going, it's real hard to have any continuity in an apartment complex. I don't know that I have any solid answers for you on that one.
But they do have apartment managers in those buildings.
Yeah.
And I would think that by city ordinance or something, fire department ordinance, that they should have some plan.
They should, and they should practice, and they should know what the heck to do. And we can certainly work with them.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not saying because they have them that they're really doing their job, because we tried to communicate with the one building to work on things with the park and haven't had much success. So, but we really ought to be in touch with them, I guess, on this.
Joe and Pepe, were you the ones that were leading the Hudson thing, the Hudson group? Was it you?
We were involved with the mapping for Hudson a little bit.
Just our block of Hudson.
Just our
That's
block.
what I mean. So that was you.
That was a couple of years ago we started.
Okay, so I have just a conceptual question compared to what he was looking at maps. We talk about blocks as being two sides of a street rather than a physical block which goes around on 4 different streets. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm talking about what Map Your Neighborhood talks about is a straight line, okay? A straight line of homes, usually in the neighborhood of 25, something like that. Straight line of homes, so you can see all the way down the block. If there's a fire down at the end, there's a fire down there, so you can rush with your fire extinguishers to help out. So a straight line, and that's kind of they pick that number 25. I have 34, so I can do it with 34. But to be able to get around and check on all those people within 1 hour, that's your whole idea.
Okay, so basically it is up and down essentially
one street.
One street.
Both sides.
Both sides.
Rather than a
Well,
block.
in your case though, like El Molino, you have just one side of the street that's part of your community, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you would just do the one side of the street if that's in that scenario. And Lake is the same way. You'd have just one side of the street.
So Belvedere is between Lake and El Molino. There's 3 blocks down. So would we be all 3 of those blocks, or just each block separate?
We'd have to look at the numbers. How many homes are you talking about? And I'm not
Like
sure.
30 something houses.
Okay, 30 something is okay. Like I said, I have 34 on my block. And we're able to do it. We're able to get around and check on everybody within an hour.
Okay.
And the 34 on my block, they set these blocks up years ago. They were, we didn't set them up for Map Your Neighborhood, so we had to make Map Your Neighborhood work within the setup that was already there. And we would try to do the same in your neighborhood, in your community, the best we can. But on some of the layouts, like on some of the blocks, it wouldn't really work properly, so we'd have to change them a little bit. But
So are you available to help us?
of course.
Because you're saying we.
Be careful there.
Me and you. And you can't expect Mindy or one person to do everything. You have to have people that really want to get involved and really want to take part in this thing. And it's,
Okay,
I'm retired. I'm willing to help. I don't charge a lot. My wife's saying, charge them some money. Now, I used to work as a volunteer with the Pasadena Fire Department. I resigned that post about 6 months ago because I do things a little differently than what they say. And plus I wanted to help Victor Gordo in his campaign for mayor, go Victor.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want any conflict of interest or anything in that regards. But anyway, I'm available to help. I do this because I like it. We're probably going to move out of the area. My wife's going to retire next September. So we're probably going to move out of the neighborhood. So if you want my help, get it now because I'm not going to be around all that much longer. And I would love to see your neighborhood communicate it, and get involved with this because I like Victor's neighborhood. I like your neighborhood. I know you guys are right close to each other. Why not? Let's make this work.
Okay, we got 9 months.
Got 9 months, so the time's clicking. So if you want to mess around, go right ahead. But I'm not going to be here to help you then.
Hey, you guys.
Seriously, let's work together. I mean, I want you guys to be safe.
Yeah, that would be good. So I guess, how would we do this? People who are interested, Josh, what do you think? How should we collect that information? As someone would be willing to help work with Perry and set it up.
Well, I guess to start, who on here would be interested?
I would.
Raise your hands.
I'm a half block captain. I would be. I mean, I'm the backup block captain for our block, so.
I'm interested.
Okay, Josh Arlene.
And I don't know if Jordan is muted because he can't
Open.
speak, but I'm speaking for him.
Jordan shaking his head.
I like the.
All right. So we've got some good interest. So I guess the next thing to do is a couple of steps. We could do like a blast, put an email out to people, maybe put some flyers, put we've done a lot of flyers lately. We could do
and I told
put it on the
people that was the
website.
last one.
But just like an interest, like, hey, are you interested? Let us know. This is what we're gonna do, and like have a date. Maybe have another little meeting, not a big long one, but just to kind of get people who are interested, and then take the next step from there. On
We try to put posters on corners like we did before they got stolen.
Yeah.
In lieu of the flyers, we could try that again.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah, I was thinking flyers will probably be necessary only because so many people don't check Nextdoor or are on Nextdoor, or they don't have internet, so they'd be out of the loop.
They don't look at their flyers either.
No.
Well, at least they're given the opportunity to read, and so that will cover a bigger base.
I think I'm going to mention to the neighbors when I walk the ones I think that might be interested and see if I can get a yes from them in an email or something.
Yeah, once we come up with a date, I think we could try the posters on four corners type thing.
Yeah. And Laurel too, like you guys are talking to people and just say, hey, email, Wash Square Pasadena, at Gmail, and then we'll get it. And then we can mark it down and reply to them. And then we know like who's interested and we can keep a list. And like Perry was saying, we don't need to have everyone in the beginning involved. There's just a certain number on for each block. And then, work on it little by little. I don't think it's going to be where everyone's going to be like, yeah, and like jumping at the, the bit, biting at the bit to do it. But I think if even like you get Belvedere or, and Heather Square or Palm Terrace or Hudson, little by little, over the next year, I think we'll make some headway.
Okay. And just realistically, if we're going to have a meeting, we should probably do it after the holidays.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
after the holidays. But also, remember, this was designed to be done sort of block by block so that you find out where the most interest is and start there. And I think is one thing that's different now from when the original one was done is we've had the recent, and this is why I brought that up, the recent fire emergencies, which seemed very close. And we've got COVID now, so people may be more tuned into the idea of emergencies or things that affect us. But sort of the other side of that is here we're having this nice meeting tonight, and at a maximum I saw 20 people, and we're down to, I don't know how many.
I think we're down to
10 now.
9, 10.
And so we're talking about, you know, close to 500 households. So it's a big job ahead of us, and people have to be willing to keep it up and keep going at it and not expect everything to happen all at once. But I think if people are more, you know, is aware, and we have a lot of new people, and new people may be better candidates than older people, as long as they're willing to be part of things and share some of their information, I think.
Yeah.
It's a good possibility.
Okay, well, I guess the next step then is you wanted, Josh, should we use, you're saying use the email Washington Square.
We can if you guys want to.
Yeah, just if you're willing to help, why don't we start with accumulating a list of who's willing to help.
All right.
And I guess on Belvedere, Laurel and Milo, whoever Milo is. No idea.
Is it
me?
Is it one of those things where maybe we should start like Map Your Neighborhood committee? Like I know we had already a little one a couple years ago and Kim did a lot with it, but it's one of those things where we kind of bring it back. So if people are interested and it's like, do you want to be part of the, you know, safety committee or Map Your Neighborhood committee? And then that way to kind of people who are interested are going to be part of it rather than just like having a neighborhood meeting for it, basically is what I'm saying.
Okay. But we have to get the information out that if you're interested, here is what you do.
Correct.
So do you want to, if you want, I can put something on Nextdoor and email, and if you put on the website, and then maybe we can, I hate to ask people to do flyers again because I told them they were done with flyers for this year, but well, we're aiming to like wait till after the end of December and into January. Am I right?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully there won't be an earthquake in the next month.
Don't say anything, don't exist.
My gosh. I'm sure that's what Perry's thinking. Like, why are you waiting?
Didn't he also say we shouldn't be doing it during COVID anyway?
Well,
wow, come on now. Just because we had COVID going on doesn't mean we're not going to have an earthquake.
I was going to say, COVID could be going on for a while again.
But didn't you say with the current restrictions?
Oh, but we can meet
face to face.
We can meet via Zoom, just like we're
doing. We can do what we're doing right now, and there's no reason to not do this, you know?
Yeah,
Sure.
and you can always talk to people when you see them when you're walking. So, I mean, I see people every day.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
So, I mean, we're not close, but we see each other and we have our mask on. But
we already did that form on this block, and if you sit down and you take some time, it takes some time to fill out that form.
Yep.
You're asked a lot of questions, and you do want to you want to see where the gas main is, and you want to see where the water main is. So it's not 2 minutes with somebody.
No, I think,
Well,
I think what Laurel's saying is,
I just, if they're interested.
yeah, just interest, just gain interest.
Just to
Interested
get a
in
sense.
what?
Interested in
participating.
participating.
Interested in what?
Participating.
Well, you got to start somewhere.
Well, I'm going to give it a try and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, please do.
I mean, I'll see the ones I think that are most likely to be interested and we'll see from there. If they're not interested, then we'll have to go farther.
Well, you and me and Milo and Jordan who's mute.
I wish I knew who Milo was.
Idea. I don't even know what Milo looks like because it was just the name Milo.
I know. We need Milo to show his face so we might know him. I probably do know him by face.
Yeah. Well, I guess
if he's got an animal that he walks, we've seen him.
So, Perry, do you have any last words of wisdom for us?
Just get back to me. Let me know who's interested, who wants to get involved. We can set up another Zoom call and certainly, try to get them more excited, get them more jazzed about this. Tell them what needs to happen. We can, you tell me what streets we're going to do. I can start doing those little spreadsheets that I was showing you for each one of the streets we want to do. And let's just start making this happen. And those sheets you can start filling that information in advance too. If you know information about people, if you know who has certain tools and that sort of stuff, go ahead and fill it in. There's no reason to wait. And just
well, I definitely want to take advantage of your offer of help before you're no longer with us and you move away. So
yeah.
I think the time is now.
So you just tell me whenever I can help. Let's do this. But right now, my wife's yelling at me, so I have to go.
We're going to wrap it up.
I had one quick question, Perry. Did you also did Orange Heights?
Yes.
How did they get the interest of all their neighbors, or were all their neighbors just willing and ready?
We did a thing called a blitz there, where we had we took some board members, block captains, and with people on the group that I was involved with, and we went door to door and walked around their neighborhood. We had maps already put together, and we went around and we marked where the gas and the water shutoffs were. And we talked to people that were home, and we filled in the spreadsheet. People that were home. Not all the information was gathered because not everybody was home, and so but we did that. We went around and did that in one day. We said, okay, we're going to go make this happen. So we walked around. We had a bunch of different people walking around to different parts of the block and just gathered information. And this was done like probably a year and a half ago, something like that, 2 years ago.
Could you do something in COVID where you print them all out, you have envelopes, and you kind of let people know that on this weekend or whatever, we're going to be dropping these off and we're going to pick them up on a certain day, just leave them by your door. Like, could you do that and gain information?
Sure. Or you could, or you could contact people via email if they'll actually look at their email and say, here's the information we're trying to gather for our neighborhood. We're not going to share it with anybody, but it's really important to protect each other. And we would like to request that you fill in this information. We're just trying to ask you a few things about if you have fire extinguishers, how many do you have? That sort of thing. If you have a generator, that we want to know that, because it can be helpful for everybody. So anyway, yeah, I would definitely not be afraid to send that out electronically and ask for people to fill it out. What I've done too is that we've had these neighborhood parties and sort of thing, and you say you talk to people about it. Well, I actually have the sheets there, and while they're there, I have them fill it in, answer the questions, and you can't believe it. You get a lot of information that way, and it's once you have it, that's a great start. It kind of really gets everything ignited.
Mm-hmm.
So those are just some ideas. I don't have all the answers, but it can be done. It really can be done. And it's happening right here in my neighborhood. And we've got over 1,100 homes. So what can I say? You can do it.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you
very much for all your time this
You're
evening. I really appreciate it.
And this should be fun. It shouldn't be torture. And I think that's kind of sometimes what it seems like. This is torture talking about this stuff, but it really shouldn't be. This is everybody. wants to take care of themselves and their families and their neighbors, and so let's just make it happen. Right?
Humans are great procrastinators. They really
Yes,
are.
we are. Yes, we are. But
Yeah.
if you that's one of the reasons that I try to do the spreadsheet and try to do the maps in advance and stuff like that, is to give you some direction so that you have a place to start, and you can start working on it. If
You've
you
done
just,
the hard work.
if you're just handed this sheet and say, okay, now go make this happen, that's what happened in my neighborhood, and we had to go invent all this stuff, the spreadsheets and all that, and the Google Maps, because it wasn't part of this, and so we made it better. And more than happy to share that with you if you want to do it. Just tell me who.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Tell me who and when.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, it would be good to get at least a template of that chart of what you were saying, so we could try to replicate that, because that's definitely way more helpful than that little flimsy booklet that you're trying to write on, and you can't read your writing a week later, and you're like, what did I write down? So yeah.
Exactly. Okay, goodbye, guys. I have to go. My wife's
Thank you very much.
Bye.
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 Thank you.
And thanks, Josh, for running the tech part.
Sure, you're welcome.
To be continued, but let's not drop the ball.
Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys. Good
Bye,
night.
everybody.
Have a good evening, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.